all about China and India. Even though for the past couple of years the largest segments have actually come from the Philippines. Huge influx from the Philippines. Most of them not coming just to Toronto, they're also going out west. How and why? Because the governments, the provincial governments out west have changed the laws to make it easier, and immigrants are very family-oriented, so their family and friends are going out west. But it's all about not what percentage is coming on a given year, but about how many customers are actually out there. Because at the end of the day, the CMO, the CFO, the CEO, they're all interested in the bottom line. And the bottom line is 1.775 million South Asians in this country. 1.5 million Chinese in this country. Now you look at the blacks and it's 1 million, and I can have a whole conversation with you as to why corporate Canada does not target blacks and doesn't target Filipinos and doesn't target people from Latin America. But that would be sort of like in your MBA course as opposed to this sort of intro to multicultural marketing. So that's where the focus is. It's the 3.2 million. Where if you're a really, really smart Canadian CEO, we said this to one of our clients because they were thinking about creating products just for the Chinese. We said, don't just focus on the 1.5 million Chinese in Canada. There's another 3 or 4 million of them in the United States. Why don't you create the product and look at it on a North American basis? And the guy said, oh no, I've read all of those articles in the paper about how Canadians keep on blowing it in the United States. I can't conquer the United States. Look how Target just blew in Canada. And we say to them, you don't have to target the United States. If you were focusing on the segment of the Chinese in the United States, you could cover them in 4 cities. But you could actually only have to conquer 4 cities. And now your target market is 5 or 6 million instead of 1.5. But that's for the visionary Canadians. And you really got to, and Terry was talking about big data, but you really got to get into the small data and some of the real numbers. And if you look at some of the big cities and you have a product that's really focused on the larger cities, you can see that there's a large percentage of the Vancouvers and the Montreals of the world that have visible minorities in their cities. And this is not immigrants. And this is not people of foreign born. This is just visible minorities, a small segment thereof. I am the son of an immigrant. I don't look like a visible minority because I'm not. It doesn't mean that I'm not ethnic. I am ethnic. I'm just not a visible minority. I just happen to not be a new immigrant. And if you delve into some of the cities, then you'll understand that the ethnic mix is actually different between the cities. Take a peek at Toronto. You're walking around the streets, and if you actually did a count, you will see the largest ethnic groups in Toronto, 47% in fact, is South Asian, Chinese, and Black. Flip over all the way to the other side of the country to Vancouver, and it's the Chinese that are the dominant force there as opposed to the South Asians, and it's simply a flip. You've got the blacks being the 3rd largest in Toronto, the Filipinos being the 3rd largest in Vancouver. And I mentioned to you there's a whole exodus of Filipinos going not only to BC but also to Calgary and Winnipeg. But if you go to Montreal, it's like living in a completely different world because the largest ethnic communities there are Black, Arab, and Latin American. If you're Maple Leaf Foods and you've got a halal product, where are you going? You're actually going to Montreal and Ottawa. Because that's where the Arab communities are, and that's another community that's growing. So this is just a little shot as to the different communities in the GTA. We'll skip through that. But if you go into the actual suburbs, you actually get a dramatically different picture than if you sort of look at the GTA in totality. In Markham, it's 72.3% of the community. In Brampton, it's 66.4% of the community. We actually won a client who wasn't looking for an ethnic agency. They were looking for a mainstream agency. Except they happened to have, their territory was in the Dufferin Peel area. And we walked in there and we said, 62% of your population base happens to be ethnic. If anybody else is competing against us didn't focus on that aspect of your client population base, you shouldn't talk to them. And we got both their ethnic business and their mainstream business. So where they are, where you're looking, who you're targeting, what the opportunity is, requires a little bit of understanding. I'll skip through Vancouver. It's a variation on the same story. Okay? And you can find it in the language of the homes. I love to hear that Canada is a bilingual country. What do we mean when we say Canada is a bilingual country? What do we mean?
It's the government official services.
Right. Government languages are in English and French. I think it's going to be actually really interesting in a couple of years, because the visible minority is actually going to become the visible majority. And if you look at what's being spoken in the homes, in Toronto, it's Cantonese, Punjabi, other dialects of Chinese, Urdu, Tamil. There's actually about 15% of the Chinese who speak no English in the home, and about 8% who speak no English at all. So we talk about being a bilingual country, we are. And we've got other stats and data about languages and marketing was actually part of the Saturday as opposed to the Friday lecture. That's part of Friday. There's all our nuances around here. And again, each city requires a better understanding of all of this. The significance of this particular slide on the language quilt is to illustrate something beyond language. It's to illustrate the fact that we tend to cluster together. Our communities live together. We are a multicultural mosaic. We are not Americans. We are not a melting pot. We thrive in our own communities, and we tend to live with our neighbors that are similar to us. So if I wanted to contact South Asians, I would go to Brampton. And if I wanted to go after Italians, I'd go to Woodbridge. And if I wanted to go to Markham Asian Court, I would be finding Asians there. And we actually utilize geo-clustering in terms of targeting ethnic consumers. So while out of home may be a waste in certain areas, it's actually phenomenal when you do multicultural marketing. Direct mail, which people have different opinions about, is actually phenomenal multicultural marketing, because you can actually figure out exactly where to go. Despite and in addition to that fact that the statistics of how much they open in terms of direct mail is certainly higher than the general population. So all kind of interesting things if you're a marketer, and if you're thinking, well, I don't know, is this all going to continue and where is it going? This is the chart that actually creates federal government policy. And it doesn't matter whether it's going to be the Conservatives or whether it's the Liberals or the NDP or any other party. That is the reality of Canada. And what this particular chart says, we talked about it a little bit yesterday, is Canadians don't have enough sex. So we are here promoting sex for all the university students that are here. The government thinks it's very important, but they don't think that you can have enough babies. Because the reality is more people are going to die in Canada than are being born. And it's the young in the workforce that actually support the economy. And there's not enough people to support the economy. So the government's known this chart for a while. They see where it's going. And what they basically said is, holy moly, the country's going to go bankrupt. What are we going to do? We need some more people. And if we can't make enough, manufacture enough babies at home, what do? You import them. So new immigrants are just baby imports. And the government needs them. The country needs them. You need them. That's why the numbers that I showed you, that's why the 200,000 international students, the government wants 385,000 students. Because they know not only do they pay more to the universities, who cares? It's a long-term play. 50% of them stay in the country. And the government's making the laws easier for them to stay. And many of them bring their parents. And by the way, when you've got that conception of the new immigrant, it's not my father who came here. My father came here with no money. My father came here not speaking English. So some other languages, but he didn't speak English. I can tell you that some of the international students that we hire or who go to the school come here and buy 2 condos. It's a new world order out there. We talked about the banks before. The banks give away and give you all kind of free services if you're a new immigrant. That's great, but not every new immigrant requires a handout. It's the same like seniors discounts. You've got a wealthy senior population, but when you're over a certain age, you get a discount. Eventually, the world will catch up to the reality. So what does all that mean? It means that Canada's changing. It means that the needs of Canadians are changing. And as a business, you've got to evolve to remain relevant and competitive to the changing face of Canada. And when we talk about the numbers, it's not just about the quantity of people, just like I was just saying in terms of the money they are coming from, it's also about their purchasing power. So don't have this mystical, there's a poor immigrant coming to the country. Over the next 10 years, approximately 70% of all growth in Canadian consumer spending will come from East Asian and South Asian consumers. I'm not telling that. Say that. Perry Kago, CIBC World Markets is. He's one of the smartest guys in the world. I should actually read more of him. He's sort of the one who said Loblaws was going to buy Shoppers way ahead of the fold and a whole bunch of other predictions that generally come true. And then there's the size and economic clout of the ethnic groups is increasing faster than that of the average Canadian household. That's Ipsos Reid, that's not me. Their purchasing power has surpassed $90 billion Canadian, the Canadian Immigrant magazine. Now, this slide, I have two confessions. I did not change the slide. I am lazy and not good at it. Okay? This is an old slide. It's a year old. It says 90 billion. The number now is 105 billion. I can give you the sources and the latest numbers. The amount of purchasing power is growing. It is not going down. And they buy 1.5 times more consumer goods than the general population and are more brand loyal. That's for Environics. Do you want that customer? Do you want to spend some money going after that customer? 1 out of every $3 of grocery purchases will come from new Canadians. Vincent Trios, president of Loblaw. Do you think he knows who's spending the money? I think so.